I'd like to actually just start by having the panelists introduce themselves, the work that you're making right now, and then we'll dive in. And Steve, would you kick us off?
Sure. So, I think it's on.
Is the button, is it green?
Oh, now it's green.
Oh, there we go.
So my name is Steve. I am a production supervisor in scripted film and television, and I've been a part of the Atlanta community since the mid-90s. So I'm familiar with, how the filmmaking has grown in our city. I'm also on the executive board of directors for the Producers Guild, and can share more about how that's helped my career in networking and what the PGA can help with.
I'm going to tack one other additional intro question on, if you don't mind, which is just to talk to us about how you would talk about where you are on your journey to creative sustainability.
So for me, I think creative sustainability is being able to think outside the box and be able to kind of, use resources that you may not normally think about. And so for me, these guys are very creative. Many of you are. I'm not great, and as far as a filmmaker and as a writer or a director, my strength, as I was sharing with Seith, is in supervising, is in producing, is in dealing with deals and negotiations. And so for that, I think it's real important to kind of being able to network and to be able to find resources that are right there in front of you when it's so, when you're looking. So.
Hi, I'm Mikkoh. I am a multifaceted creative working across music, film, and design. I've been a DJ for over a decade and also a filmmaker for a little bit over 7 years now. Yeah.
Where are you on your journey to creative sustainability?
Yeah, creative sustainability. So for me, working across all different kinds of media, creative sustainability is, I think, really forged through adaptability. Having such a diverse skill set, for me, I think I'm able to basically shape shift in any environment I'm in, and also being interdisciplinary, I'm able to kind of draw inspiration from different kinds of art forms.
Thank you. Kiah?
Hi, friends. My name is Kiah Alexandria Clingman. I am a filmmaker, I'd say primarily a producer, but have been transitioning into the directing space. I actually started out as an actress, but I was a consultant at Deloitte, and I quit. What was that? Oh. And after 5 years working in federal health consulting, I quit my full-time job and decided to be a producer full-time, and that's going to provide some more context when we really start talking about sustainability and how to do this. I feel like I'm still in a learning stage. I still feel like I'm early to mid in my career. I think a lot of my community look at me and they're like, "Hi, you've done so much, you've done this, you've done that." But I still feel like I have a long way to go. So as far as sustainability goes, I'm trying to remain present at every phase and learn and celebrate my wins, every small win. That's what I'm trying to focus on right now.
Can you just really quickly tell the folks what's happening for you at the festival?
Sure, yes. I have a short film in the festival that's playing this Saturday called Super High, a period piece. It's the first animated piece that I produced, directed by Bianca Lambert. And my feature film, Color Book, was the opening night feature last Thursday. We had a packed house, standing room only, and we shot and produced and hired all locally in Atlanta. Yeah. And so I'm very, very proud of what we were able to create. It's a beautiful film directed by David Fortune, and I'm just, really, really happy that he decided to hire the lead producer, hire me as the lead producer, being someone who really knows the fabric and texture of Atlanta. He could have gone elsewhere, but he knew that he wanted to make a story about Atlanta, and so it was important to have people in front of the screen and behind the screen that are actually based in Atlanta. And yeah, I'm very proud of both of those projects. And we have an encore screening May 4th, so please get your tickets if you haven't had a chance to see it.
Thank you. Wait, I have to preface this. So I got familiar with House of June's work when we came down and did our first big event here at the Switch Yards downtown. It was called the South Scott Summit Essay, which was a bold fucking title for something that we were hosting from outside of Atlanta. But we were conducting an experiment of what would happen if we got a bunch of multidisciplinary, Mikkoh was the DJ, that's how I met Mikkoh. What would happen if we got a bunch of multidisciplinary artists in the same room? What would happen? And it was kind of a magical experience, but I saw some of the House of June's work and I was like, who are these women? And what genius is happening there? I think about those films all the time. They were shorts, and it was like, this is what a totally unique vision looks like. And I was really excited, and I didn't know Amber, I know Ebony Blanding, and I wrote to Ebony, and I was like, come be on the panel. And this woman was like, I get a lot of panel opportunities. I want to make sure Amber takes the stage because she's also a part of this vision. And I'm so excited that you're here, but I had to preface that to say, it was the true nature of a collective that she got here. It was like singular vision and also utter selflessness and like beauty and collaboration. So that's my part of your intro.
Thank you. Now I'm shy. There you go. Hi, I'm Amber Nicole Bournett. I have been an independent filmmaker since 2017 and a union camera operator for 4 years.
Hey.
And I am 1/3 now of the House of June. And how do I create a sustainability?
Yeah. Where are you on your journey to creative sustainability?
I'm in a place where I do what I can to make sure I don't experience creative burnout. And that's very important for me when, sometimes as creatives we can take on so many projects and not be afraid to say no, and that way you can't give your 100% to this because you have 5 different projects going on at the same time. And so that's where I am now, just like the maturity and realizing what I need when I need to sit still and how to refuel myself. So.
I got one.
Oh, you got one. Yeah, there you go.
We recovered it from the wild.
Yes, I got the hot mic from outside. Hi, my name is Seith, Mann. I am a writer, director, and producer. I have worked quite a bit in television, probably directed some shows you've seen, written a show you may not have seen, and also produced in the television space. Where am I on my path to sustainability? Great question actually, because I am in an interesting place in my career. I'd say that, for me, the journey to sustainability right now is figuring out how to sustain myself as I redefine myself in terms of how I'm known professionally. Most people that know me in the industry, and a lot of people know me in the industry, know me primarily as a director. And as I said at the beginning, I am a writer, director, and producer. So, making the space to use those other skills and develop those other skills. I'm a pretty good writer already. I'm learning the producing thing, and I don't know that much about it, but I'm on the journey and learning, and that's where I am.
And Seith, you've primarily made your living as a TV director over the last, and a sound editor, right?
I worked as a sound editor before. It's fair to say I was just keeping, the ramen on the table. I can't say I made a living as a sound editor, but I did do some work as a non-union sound editor before I started making a living, primarily as a director. It's fair to say I've made some of my living as a writer as well at this point, but the majority of it, and for the majority of years that I've been considered a professional, it's been as a director.
So actually, I want to stay with you for a second because I think this is one of those almost sort of infuriating stories of how brilliant multidisciplinary people can get pigeonholed if they're not careful. Can you talk a little bit about how you went from a student film to directing for The Wire, among others, for this crowd, just to give them a sense? Because you have an incredible story about mentorship and cultivating mentorship that part of the reason is we got on a call. I asked him to be on the panel, then we got on a call, and then he told me a story, and I was like, wait, you gotta retell this story in front of this crowd. But I'd really love you just to talk about that, because I do think that one of the ways that we look towards creative sustainability is certainly like, who are we helping and who's helping us along the way? That was the sort of where the last panel landed. Would you just tell that story for this crowd?
Sure. So the story that Emily is referring to is how I got, my first break, to work professionally. I stress professionally because, the difference between being a director or a writer or an actor, and a professional one is just getting paid to do it, right? And I think sometimes people don't understand that you're doing the work. When you're making a short film, just because nobody's paying you doesn't mean you're not a director or a filmmaker. And I think it's important for people to recognize that. So, and it actually does connect to this story, because I remember I had made a short film called 5 Deep Breaths that was my thesis film from film school, and got introduced or set up for a 15-minute coffee with a producer named Bob Colesbury, who worked on a show called The Wire. And that show. And we talked for 15 minutes. He asked me where the film come from, all those things, all the small talk things, but like genuinely curious. On the way out, he introduced me to his next appointment, who was a director named Eddie Bianchi. And he introduced me as a director. He said, hey, meet this director, Seith Mann. And I remember feeling like a charge because he had called me a director. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'll try to tell maybe the slightly faster version of the story, because there's a lot of wisdom and I don't want to take too long. But about a month later, Bob Colesbury died. And, I got a call. I had an agent at that point, and I was like, wow, I just met him for 15 minutes. I don't know who to send a card to or anything like that, but that's terrible news. And assumed that was probably the end of that story or opportunity. And a couple months after that, I got tracked down by a producer named Nina Noble from The Wire. She called me. She said, hey, listen, Bob was a big fan of yours, and out of respect for his memory, we'd love to invite you to come shadow on the show. We know you live in New York. If you can get to Baltimore, our editor is not here yet because it's the first episode, and you can stay at his apartment. And Eddie Bianchi, the guy I met for half a second, has already agreed to let you shadow him. And I was like, great. And she's like, there's a memorial for Bob the night before production. I didn't know if you wanted to come. I was like, of course. I go to the memorial on a soundstage, bury me on a soundstage. And people keep coming up to me and they're like, hey, you must be Seith, and nice to meet you, and da-da-da. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? Because I met this guy for 15 minutes, and people are coming up to me like I'm his old friend or something like that. So the next day, first day on set, I meet David Simon. He introduces himself. Hey, I'm David Simon. I'm the showrunner. I don't know what that is at that point. And he's like, listen, Bob's secret plan was for you to direct an episode this season. That's not going to happen. We're just finding our way without him, but we wanted you to come and learn everything you can. And so...
Disgrace a man's memory like that the next day. Jeez.
And that was it. So he, I shadowed Eddie, then I shadowed Ernest Dickerson, and then, eventually, after the whole SaveTheWire.com chapter, I don't know if you guys remember that, but after the third season of The Wire, there was a possibility of it not coming back. It did come back, and that ended up becoming my first episode of television. So that was one part of the story, and then the other part of the story I'll tell faster, which was same film got me into the ABC DGA Director Training Fellowship Program. And there I shadowed a director named Peter Horton. Well, I shadowed a director named Adam Davidson. But he didn't have a script, and he got tired of me sitting in his office looking at him doing nothing. So he suggested I go shadow the guy that was actually directing an episode. I go shadow Peter, who was a producer director on this mid-season replacement I don't know if you guys know how that works, but in television, back in the day, I don't even think they're doing this anymore, I'm not sure, but they would order a bunch of pilots, they would greenlight some, and then they would order some as mid-season replacements, knowing that eventually some of the pilots that they ordered were gonna fail. They had some stuff in the pipeline to make. So this was a mid-season replacement called Complications. I shadow Peter, he likes me because I don't talk too much, and he had another shadow talk a hole in his head, and eventually he watches my short and likes it, and we talk, he gets to know me as a filmmaker, and he's like, listen, if this show gets picked up, I'm gonna try to get you an episode, which was, again, very gratifying to me to have someone that was doing it on a professional level recognize me. And so anyway, eventually they got a pickup date. They changed the name of the show from Complications to Grey's Anatomy, and that was my second episode of television. Wow. And
what I like about this story, though, is this is a story of you doing the work, following up, showing up, being in the room, continuing to be there, being respectful, and people rooting for you also because the quality of your work is great. I'm actually wondering if you would allow us to share that film that you shared with me with this community when we follow up with them, so they can see the film that got people to buy in. Because I do actually think it's also really important to understand what it is to showcase your work and like what it can do for you when it's ready. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I love about this story is that you made something that did a lot of work for you as well, right? That said who you were in the beginning. So I would just love to thank you so much.
Quick follow-up
yes,
question?
please.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about how you think that has evolved now, like having an opportunity like that. I was just talking to David, who just directed his first feature, and the struggle that directors, and he has like probably 10 award-winning short films, and it's so hard to even get an opportunity to shadow on a TV show now. And it seemed like for you it was fairly, I don't want to say simple, but you had a direct connection, and I know he's been all around the world making all of these brilliant connections, and still it's very difficult to get an opportunity like that. Like, have things changed? Like, how accessible is it now? And I'm sure everyone here would want to know, and I would love to know as well, like how to approach that.
Great question. I mean, I think the thing that Emily just said is actually the thing. Anytime I do a panel and someone's like, what advice would you give? I'm always like, make the thing. You have to do the work, first off. I mean, my gift was not necessarily hustling or networking or any of that. You know what I mean? But making something that people could see, recognize, and respond to, open doors that even my clumsy non-networking ass could stumble through. You know what I mean? And so for your friend and for anybody else, I think that's the first part of it. I think the other part of it is you have to look for those opportunities. Bob Colesbury, I can't explain that other than God. That was a gift. Like, I wasn't looking for him. And he found me and literally became an angel for me. The ABC program, just to back up a little further, I had applied to that program before and didn't get in. You know what I mean? So there is a certain part of it that is about persistence and accepting that no is part of the journey. You know what I mean? And not to get shut down by it. And to continue to look for those opportunities, press for those opportunities. It's fair to say, unless something has changed since this contraction, and it's very possible that things have changed since the contraction, that there were more opportunities to get into sort of meaningful television shadow opportunities in the last few years than there was when I got into the ABC program. When I got into the ABC program, not to date myself, but when I got into the ABC program, it was like one of a couple of programs. I know John Wells had a program, ABC had this program, but since then, there was a point at least 3 or 4 years ago where it seemed like every major studio had some sort of talent development program designed specifically to get, minority people and women opportunities to learn the craft and work and to transition into professional spaces. Not just directing programs, but there was writing programs as well. I'm not sure what's still standing after the contraction, you know what I mean? From a place of like actual knowledge and authority, I don't know because I haven't looked in a while, but I think the main thing is to look for those opportunities that are institutional that people can tap into, but then also to just make things, right? Because there are other people like the Bob Colesberries of the world who are looking for talent and looking for ways that they can support talent. So the main thing is always to make the thing and just keep making the thing.
You gave me a perfect segue, actually, and this is kind of for Amber and Mikkoh, because both of you make a lot of things in collective and in community. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how collective and community has provided opportunity for you or has fortified you.
I don't have a mic yet. Go ahead. I think I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for community, like where I am in my career. I started making films during like the web series, when web series were a big thing, right? And then was acting, and was like, hey, I want to direct an episode. So someone in the union happened to be the operator, and he taught me how to use his camera, and I went out and bought my own. And I like met Ebony in lighting class, and it's like, we're making all these films. I was like, I know I want to be a cinematographer. Like I started doing film not knowing what a cinematographer was, you know? And so once I knew there's a title for this job and I want to be more intentional about lighting, I was like, okay, how do I become more knowledgeable? And a friend in the film community, when we were doing like film festivals, she told me about an opportunity at a rental house at Commander. And so I became a camera prep technician. And from there, I spoke to a lot of ACs, and then I got to camera PA on like Black Panther and stuff like that, and then I became...
Wait, don't say that one more time.
So, like, when we talk about opportunities, sometimes departments on union sets, you will have sometimes like a intern or a PA. And the camera PA, when we were doing French hours, is basically you don't take like a full lunch. And they did that a lot of Marvel movies, and you kind of like, you eat your lunch while you're working. And so they hire someone to go get the food for everyone, and that's really why I was there. So it was just getting food, getting lunch. And that opened up to other opportunities to camera PA, and then I worked my way up to become a camera operator. And just I'll say this, like, operating is my 9 to 5, but if it's something you really want to do, don't be afraid to tell people that's what you want to do, because they're not going to know unless you say it, right? And there's this, like, I felt like there was this, like, energy of, like, you don't tell people you want to be a cinematographer when you're a utility. You don't, and it's like, how are people going to know to help you if you don't let them know what your dream is, right? And so I think I got my first job as a camera operator because one of my friends knew that I DP, and I shoot a lot of short films, and I was very passionate about it, and so they got me an interview with a DP, and it went well, and that's where I am now. And so in that sense, I wouldn't be here for the people who didn't believe in me in the community. So.
It sounds like it started with you believing in you, though.
Yeah.
Right? You believed in your own dream, and you were talked out loud about it, and then the community around you, who you were already supporting, turned around and was like, and now we're going to support her.
I feel like you have to claim it. You know, because I feel like, I just had a conversation about this over here, that like, I feel like a lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome. And, you know, that's gonna come and go. It doesn't stop coming, you know what I mean? As you get older, even the higher you get in your career, it still comes, but it comes in a different way. And it's kind of like you have to believe in yourself, believe in your mission, believe in your goal, and then just communicate that with people, and then you align yourself with people who believe in you too, and you believe in their projects, so.
I guess for me, so I can go backwards a little bit and kind of start at the beginning of my journey, but I actually studied engineering at Georgia Tech, graduated. I hear a few Techies clapping quietly. But yeah, I graduated. At the time, I was working at probably one of the most promising tech companies in Atlanta at the time. But the thing is, throughout my college career, I volunteered at this local arts and entertainment nonprofit called Collaboration ATL, which was focused on kind of providing support and platform for Asian American artists. And so I wasn't an artist at the time, but seeing how, being in community and seeing how important it is to have the people around you to, make you believe that you are what you say you are. You are a DP, you are a DJ, And so that really gave me the courage to be like, yeah, I'm gonna pursue music, let's do this. My mom wasn't happy, of course. She's like, what are you gonna do with that engineering degree? Be a DJ. But
There's tech equipment involved.
yeah. But yeah, I think, going back to, the creative sustainability thing, like it is about just adapting your skill set to where you are. I think even just not moving, but like also becoming a filmmaker as a DJ, that's been, honestly, it really happened because I was in community with other filmmakers. And like, even just as a DJ and just somebody who is in the local art scene here, I've been able to connect with the dance community even, and that's been really cool because that's been able to kind of sharpen my skills, give me opportunities that I wouldn't have been able to receive if I didn't kind of, already like dabble in it and network in that network too. And so, yeah, it's given me opportunities. Like I was able to produce a dance visual for Top Dog Entertainment for SZA's new, well, at the time, her new single was Shirt, came out before the album came out. So opportunities like that, it's all like through your community. And so it's really important to kind of network in, not network up, but I think network in the trenches so that we all rise together.
Yes. Yes. Louder for the people in the back. Steve and Kiah, I'm really curious, like, you're from Cincinnati. Steve, you are working on very, very large productions at this point that are all over the world. Why is Atlanta your home base? Like, why are you choosing to be here? What is it about this place?
I think because Atlanta, again, I started in the 90s. I moved away for a while, and it brought me back. And it brought me back because I saw that there was so much infrastructure that was built here. These aren't sound stages that are warehouses converted into sound stages, but there was a lot of things that were built from the ground up, and vendors and talented artists, and that you can pretty much have a community. You could film here in Atlanta and have everything locally sourced. And for post-production, for example, is something that hasn't really occurred a whole lot in Atlanta, but the tax credit, goes for post-production as well. So I'm seeing that era is growing and is expanding. But that's the reason I kind of stayed in Atlanta, is that it's really a place that I feels like home, and that there is a great local talent pool here.
Yeah, my film is in post at Moonshine Post.
Yes,
Shout out Moonshine.
Shout out Moonshine. Yeah, I love Moonshine. Community, and that's it. Like I have worked in other markets, and I have not found the same sense of community. Like I have multiple people here in the audience right now that are a part of my tribe, and we lean on each other for everything, filmmaking wise, but then even we've become, friends as well. And I would not have been able to do any of my projects without my tribe and without my community. I mean, Amber and I she DP'd a project that I produced 3 years ago. And the Atlanta community, indie-wise especially, is very small. Like I feel like we know everyone. And so it's easy to like call on someone and know that they're going to be invested in your project. Not the same as you. I always say like you have to champion your own project, and there probably won't be someone else who is going to be as invested as you, but in Atlanta, it's come very close. Like my collaborators are believing in me and my projects as much as I believe in theirs. So this is literally my home. I always say Atlanta adopted me. I love this city. I love the South. I participated in the Southern Producers Lab in 2020, and that's when I feel like got even more tied to like my Southern roots. And of course, my family, I'm from Cincinnati, but my grandparents are all from the South, and it's in my blood. So I feel like those are the types of stories I want to tell. I want to continue to. I feel like we're the underdog as well of Hollywood, and so I want to continue to build and bloom right here where I'm planted.
I love this. I want to ask one more question to the panel, and then I want to open up to the crowd. And we'll go about 10 minutes past 4, since we started a little late, because I wanted everybody to have a chance to talk to the previous panel. Can you, and if you have to run, that's okay, I understand. Some of us still have jobs, you know what I mean? Creative sustainability takes a lot of forms. And so I want to get really fucking practical with this crowd to the extent that you are comfortable. Can you talk about how are you literally sustaining your creative careers, and are there tools or support networks or guidelines or things that you are relying on or that you would recommend for folks? Like Steve, I know you're a part of the PGA. Like, how much does that help you? So this is really a question to all of you. Like, what are the things that actually help you sustain your career? Like, if these people were gonna walk out of here and be like, I can do that tomorrow, what would you give us?
I think just to mention what I think Mikkoh is mentioning about networking, not networking with those above you, but networking with your own peers. So you don't have to necessarily go seek a production executive or a producer, but find other filmmakers, because networking within your own peers is always a very good strength. For the Producers Guild, we have a mentoring program. I mean, I've been in the industry almost 30 years. I still go and join the mentoring program and find mentors that I can go and sit with, because it never ends. You're always evolving, you're always growing, and it never stops at any point.
Is that mentorship program only available to PGA members?
It is, but you know, it's something that we do frequently, and anyone that's interested in joining the PGA, the membership information is on producersguild.org.
Great, thank you. How do you build your lives? How do you pay your bills? Give us the real stuff. Come on. All right, I'll embarrass myself first. When I was building Seed&Spark, I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know anything about it, and I had a career in non-union voiceover. I also can't say it was a career, and I made about $26,000 a year for the first couple years that I was trying to get Seed&Spark off the ground, and I waited tables. And I waited tables like well into getting Seed&Spark off the ground. And I will never forget the day I worked it was a French restaurant, and so the thing they do in French restaurants the day you leave is they put a pie in your face. That's a real thing. And I was digging whipped cream out of my ear canal for like 6 months afterwards. It was so vicious. But I remember the day that I left, because we had finally garnered enough investment that I could just like squeak along paying my rent and having voiceover to get it off the ground. And I was like really living job to job. And like every single cent I did went back into trying to get the company off the ground, getting the fucking whipped cream out of my ear. But I remember they said to me, you know, if you ever want to come back to the restaurant, I was a really good waiter, you guys, I was really good. I knew all my wines. You can come back here. And I rested on those laurels for the good first like 7 years of getting this company off the ground. So I just want to say, like, I want to talk brass tacks, because I think people need to understand, like, it's not glamorous, and sometimes we like to hide it. I think, to your point, we might not want people to know what we're actually going through, but it makes it less relatable if we're not really talking about what it's taking. So yeah, tell us the tools, tricks, side hustles, what we got.
Yeah, I think being a multi-hyphenate is everything right now. I actually got into locations last year. I was, you know, we had $1 million to make Color Book, but that is not a lot of money when it comes to like really making, you know, or at least the scale of the project that we made. And I was in development and pre-production doing a lot of our locations work, and then we ended up bringing on a locations manager later on in the process, and he has become like a mentor to me, and he hired me as his scout for 3 commercials last year, and then I just location managed my first commercial earlier this year, and now I'm working as another scout on another one right now, and honestly that's like helping pay the bills. And also community. Again, I have I have a producers group. We call each other like the Big P producers, and one of them, they invited me to be an associate producer on a key TV series that we're filming next month, or in May. Is it May yet? Next month. And so I wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for, network and community. And this is the first time I'm getting to work with these women who I've admired for years in the producing space. I've worked with them as a talent, as an actress, like in 2017, and now I'm getting to produce with them. But also, I've literally had to borrow funds from people, and pay them back. Being completely transparent. It's very difficult, but I'm making it happen, and I have faith that my pockets will eventually get bigger. The budgets will get bigger, and I'm in development for a feature right now that is in the $4 million range. So, I have a rate in that budget. So, hopefully once we get greenlit and our financing goes through, I'll be able to say I'm living a more sustainable life for sure.
We are manifesting this for you.
Oh, absolutely. And then as far as resources, I know, very cliche, but Seed&Spark was a huge resource to me I've crowdfunded 3 times with them. But last year especially, I crowdfunded for my solo directorial debut called Her Pretty Vagina. It's a dark comedy about women's health, endometriosis, and HPV. And I was able to not only raise $26,000, but I was able to build an audience and a community who is craving and has a huge appetite for the story that I'm telling. And I would not have even known that if I didn't do a crowdfunding campaign. And I'm about to lock picture this week. And I didn't realize how much crowdfunding would be essential to me building a fan base and an audience. And I was able to really create this unique brand with the help of my team. And I feel like I have some of my team members here in the audience. And yeah, we kind of created a movement with Seed&Spark, and it kind of rippled, and people were just people have used our pitch video and how we created our page as an example for their and inspiration for theirs.
I based my campaign off your page, no joke. I got to see it last year, and I was like, oh, I want mine to look like this. I hired their same designer and everything. I'm dead serious.
Yes. So yeah, that has been an incredible resource for me to make sure that I don't get burnt out, because producing, I am very burnt out, I'm gonna be honest. And so I was like, hey, I wanna get into writing and directing and really owning my creative independence, and Seed&Spark, and then being able to raise funds to create my own project really gave me that independence, and I feel like I have a more fuller creative life because of it.
So I'm on a show till the end of June, and what I do, we are currently planning an anthology series. And so while I'm at work, if my camera's not working, if I'm at lunch, if I have any downtime, if we're waiting for cast to change wardrobe, I am doing something for the project. And I think that's really how, that's the advice I can give. It's just, I don't know if you just find the time. If you really want something, you find the time and try to make it work for you. Also on set, I take opportunities to do insert units, or I'm watching the lighting plan, or I feel like something to learn is always be open to learning more. You know what I mean? Because you're always going to be a student of life, and as a creative, that's why collaboration is so important, because you always can learn from the people that you're working with. Just be open to learning, open to taking information, and also ask the homies for favors, you know what I mean? I work on people's projects all the time. People ask me to work on their projects, and you just get this sense of okay, I shot 2 shorts with you. Can you hook me up with some lights? You know what I mean? Can you hook me up with a location? So look at your resources and the family and community that's around you, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think, brass tacks, I think it's interesting because I was kind of thinking I need to answer this question in 2 parts, right? Because how I sustained myself, you know, before The Wire is different than how I sustain myself now. But it actually isn't when I think about it in the broadest strokes. And I think that for me, it really comes down to, like, at the end of the day, you gotta eat. If you got people you're responsible for, you gotta feed them. At one point in your life, that person is probably just you. At a different point in your life, it may be other people. So you have to eat, you have to have a roof, you have to have clothes, blah, 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 and you have to pay for those things. And that's a real question, an important question, I think, for all aspiring artists or filmmakers to contend with. And so for me, it comes down to something my auntie told me, which is, you know, never lose sight of the difference between your job and your work. And what that meant was, you know, what my job is what I need to do to keep the lights on. You know what I mean? My job is what so before The Wire, my job was at one point sound editing, assistant editing, PAing when I could get that work, which is the hardest work in the world to get. I found it was easier to direct than for me to get PA work at a certain point. So anybody that cracked the code on that, let me know. Embarrassing story, went to what do they call it? A focus group for flavors and names for a new malt liquor that was going to be released. I did all sorts of odd things. And the best one was I got a job being the post-production supervisor at my grad school. And the reason I say it was the best is not because it was the most regular, which it was, but it was the best because the way the hours worked. It was a weekend job. I had no weekends for like 2 years. I worked from, I think, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., but it set me up so that I could use the rest of the week to do my work, which was to write. You know what I mean? So whatever your thing is, whatever your hustle is, you just have to figure out how to structure your life so you can do a job that is going to sustain you financially and whatever else you need that still allows you to do your work, however that's structured. Some people write in the middle of the night or do whatever. I can't do that. I got to write in the daytime. So that's why that was important to me. And I think the other thing that's important is, like, what is your... a friend of mine actually said this to me fairly recently, and it was so important that he said it because I couldn't answer the question at the time. He said, well, what's on your diet right now? And I was like, huh? I mean, I'm a pescatarian. He was like, nah, motherfucker, what's your diet of films? What are you watching? You know what I mean? And it's like, particularly if your job is really rigorous and is giving you hours that are keeping you from the work you love, you need to find a way to sustain your diet. What are you watching that inspires you? Who are you talking to that inspires you? You know what I mean? And who will also, nudge you sometimes and say, yeah, but you've been doing that job too long, motherfucker. When you gonna get to your work, right? So that's what sustains me.
Hey, I was gonna say,
Y'all gave me the reluctant, gradual guilt clap. It's all good.
I guess what I was gonna say was the same thing what Amber said. Like, work trade has been a really good resource for me. I think at one point when I started to be, I guess, a professional and get paid for what I was doing, at one point I think I held on way too tightly to the idea of being paid for my work. But I think that doing free work, doing trades with people in your community and stuff, that has really gotten me pretty far because it opens yourself up to new audiences. it just helps you broaden your skill set too. And also just not in your industry, but even going industries adjacent to yours. So I work in, unlike these folk, mostly in non-union kind of commercial production work. And so I have mentors who work on the strategy side in agency or work in media buying. And so that really informs me to help me have a more rounded approach to my art.
God, they're so smart. It's really satisfying. Let's take a few questions. Yeah, you know what? We're just gonna kick it off. Go ahead. Use your loud voice.
Okay. Hi. Hello. Keisha. My question is for Kiah and anybody else. I know you said that you're originally from Ohio and you've been here for 9 years. I've been in Atlanta for I think I made 3 years or 4 years this year. I don't know. One of those numbers. My question is, when you first moved here, how did you put yourself out there, network, and even in the down times when you couldn't really network because of work or school or whatever, how did you keep yourself within that frame to kind of continue to build your community? Because I think that's where I'm at now, trying to build out my community, but while I'm in a downtime as well.
The question is, when you first get here in a new community, how do you find your people? That's my very short. She was much more eloquent and adorable, but I just want to make sure everybody else heard the question.
So I went to Howard, shout out to my HU, yay. And first thing we learned there is how to network. I feel like we learned how to finesse, how to network our 4 years. And so when I had not yet moved to Atlanta. I had moved to New York after graduating, and then unfortunately my dad got sick, and so I ended up moving to Greenville. My parents moved to South Carolina when I was in school. And I was like, as an only child, I was like, I cannot go back to living with my parents, so I'm gonna go somewhere where I can be here, just arms, lengths away, to be able to get to him. But I had originally wanted to stay in New York, so I was like, okay, what's the closest city that is, evolving and growing? And I was like, okay, Atlanta. And so actually, before I moved to Atlanta, I found this networking event. At the time, it was called Alchemy, and it was filmmakers and actors. And I drove down I was still living in Greenville, and I drove down from Greenville to Atlanta just to attend this event that was 2 hours in the evening. And literally that event, I met so many people that are still my friends to this day and creative, who are part of my creative community. Some of them have now moved to LA, but a lot of them helped. I ended up producing their short films 5 years later, and I was not even a producer then. And so literally what you're doing right now, we didn't have this when I first moved here, and thank God for Emily that we have a space like this now, and for the Atlanta Film Festival. But I did things like this. I literally found networking events, workshops. I remember I went to Raven Drummer's casting workshop and then met some of my actor friends that I have now. And then festivals, oh my gosh, going to as many festivals as you can, not just Atlanta Film Fest. Any that you can, Bronze Lens, yeah, there's Peachtree Village Summit, there's a women's one-day festival, there's Atlanta Underground Festival, there's a lot here, but then there's also, if you can travel or drive, Sidewalk Festival. There's hundreds of incredible festivals where you can really, really build your network and also get inspired. If you really want to make a short film, they have the best short films at all the festivals. So
I want to name two really quickly.
Yeah.
So you shouted out Sidewalk, that's stone's throw from here in Birmingham, and Kookalorus, which is in Wilmington.
Kookalorus.
And Kookalorus is one of those where people are like, what now? Because it's hard to say. Kookalorus Film Festival, spelled exactly like it sounds. But that's another one that filmmakers love to go to, and they've done a really good job of cultivating a filmmaker community. So if you want to build a network of filmmakers, Sidewalk is similar. But yeah, there's, and if there's anybody else has a festival they just want to shout out real quick? There you go. So there's going to be folks at at our drinks afterwards who will also provide these. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted
fine. And also volunteering at festivals. So I volunteered at ABFF the first year I moved here. I know that's not in Atlanta, but I met a lot of people there who lived in Atlanta or was moving to Atlanta and became a part of my community. So the opportunities are definitely out there, and they were out there, you know, what was that, 8 years ago? Now there's even more now. And of course, we're still building after COVID, but the opportunities are definitely there, and you're already doing the right thing by being here.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that to also, you know, make your own films. A lot of my most intimate community people are people that I made films with when I was starting out. You know what I mean? Making my own films, working on their films. So like, you can't make a film by yourself, or if you figure out how to do that, let me know. Make a thing, and you will have to find people that will help you make that thing, and inevitably you're gonna end up helping them. That's another way to, on top of that, because that was a perfect answer, I would say make your film.
I would say also
Yeah.
volunteering on other people's projects. That's a good way to see what you like to do and see how you vibe with people as a creative. So.
Yeah. And build a community of people whose taste you admire. Okay? Like that's also really important. And if you all want to rise together, it's got to be because you're like very excited about those collective visions. Another question? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Christy Trevada. I'm a filmmaker, just moved here to Miami.
Hi.
So I had a question in regards to what kind of advice or resources are available for producers or filmmakers whose project has gotten out of their depth of experience. So for like, to clarify, my team and I have a project that is, you know, we're a ragtag, you know, ghetto team of filmmakers from Miami who built something that is going to the next level, high level deal making. What are some resources or things that, or advice to protect ourselves?
Everybody's like, Steve. Steve is your resource. Go, Steve.
I think that you know, basically, that's, I think I need a second for that one. I think that basically what you're doing is the right steps, is to basically, we as filmmakers adapt, and we do a great job at adapting, and so you to, you know, taking it to the next level and finding other folks and other creatives and other producers that can take the same vision and move forward with it. You know, going into the festival route and networking and all of those routes is definitely the right steps.
You need a lawyer.
Yeah.
You need an accountant. Okay? And you need to research everybody that you're potentially deal making with, find out who else they've made deals with, and go talk to them. Find out everything about how they negotiated their deals, what they liked, what they didn't like. And if another filmmaker is like, "Ugh, yeah, this really went south," just believe them. It's not going to be different for you.
Yeah.
It's like when a woman is like, "Yeah, don't date him. Don't date him." Sorry, fellas, we talk. But honestly, like, inter-filmmaker gossip is really, really important for finding relationships that are healthy, fortifiable, honest. And if you're doing high-level deal making, you need to do the diligence on those relationships. Like, doesn't matter how much money they're waving in front of your face. Like, I have seen huge checks fall apart. I had a deal I almost did, like an investor in Seed&Spark, and I just was getting the ick. I got the ick. And it was something that they asked for that really felt like out of step. And this is somebody who had come highly recommended to me. And I got the ick, and I was like, you know what? I'm not willing to give this up. I'm not going to do this deal. I'm going to trust my gut. He's just been indicted. So I just want to tell you, like, also, all the same rules apply in terms of, like, if somebody gives you the ick, that's it. Like, that's all you need to know. Okay? And it doesn't, like, but we will step over our gut when somebody's waving a big check in our face, and that's the biggest mistake you can make. Okay, so you have to maintain that ragtag thing that you have that's all about we're gonna trust our gut with where we go next. Carry that piece forward. That's really, really important. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Hey, you all doing? My name is John Stevens, and just had one question since on the topic of sustainability. For mental health and this gasoline tank that gets you where you are now, and also gets you where you're wanting to go, what are you using as your driver and your passion to keep you going? Because in the thing of the ideation, the business side, if you don't have the energy to be able to think, comprehend, there or not. So just wanted to see what you're pulling from your gas tank. What gas are you using to get you to where you are now and where you're going?
That was a really beautiful question that for those of you, if you didn't hear it, was really just, if I can distill that perfectly worded thing down to a few words, is how do you support yourself from mental health? And I love this concept of like, what fuel are you using to keep your tank full when you have to do so many different things?
For me, it's doing things that have nothing to do with filmmaking. So just got a dog, and I'm like obsessed with her and love her so much. And that truly makes me happy, like making sure I go out and get some vitamin D and not stay on my computer typing emails for 12 hours. Spending time with my family, my friends, my boyfriend is very meaningful to me. Driving up 2 hours to go see my parents and just being reminded like I have another life outside of filmmaking, because it definitely consumes me, and I am definitely a workaholic. Also therapy, yes, my therapist is everything, and I was like recently diagnosed with anxiety after COVID, and I don't know what that is about because I've never been an anxious person. And
Why, Kiah? The world's going great.
right?
That's a totally unreasonable reaction to the entire thing falling apart.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's lots of us who are just like, what is happening? Yeah, and talking through, and I got a psychiatrist and like exploring different meds for it as well, and like not being afraid of that, and not being afraid to talk about it. So yeah, I think like having an outlet, whether it's like a hobby or a community or people who are completely separate from all of this, I think really, really helps.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that definitely finding a work-life balance. This is an industry that can consume us. It's very common for me to be on a job where I'm working 13, 14, 15-hour days, and it can completely take a toll on you. It's very stressful. So for me, I try to, when I'm on location working, I hang out with non-film friends, and I find a lot of locals in the community to learn more about their area. But also fitness for me. I love to run. It gets my mind off of things. Listen to music. Music is a great way. So those are the things that kind of fuel my tank to kind of keep going.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Like yoga, I play volleyball once a week. I run with my friends once a week. I try to be as active as possible. I think that really helps with your mental health. Like just get the blood flowing. Yeah.
An embarrassment of riches.
I got really into gardening.
Yep.
That's really fun for me, yard work. I did that before I came here, actually. Working out, I try to work out before I go to set. It kind of changes your whole day and your energy and your mood. And I love going to the movies just to go to see films I like. Like going to the movies is fun for me, talking about projects. I'm in a film club, a film movie club. And yeah, I think it's good to I feel like we all got into this industry for a reason because we like movies and we like entertainment. So going back to that space of like, oh, I like to go watch movies and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I would echo that. I mean, I think what I was talking about earlier with the diet was like, because being in the business, you can learn to hate the business, or a lot of it. It's easy to hate the business. And so it's like to remind yourself about what you loved before you got to know the business. So it's seeing films you love, or just get you in that kind of conversation as a pure fan of the medium, or talking to people who share that love or can still access it and everything like that. And then the other thing for me, besides family, I can say that, children will bring you joy that you never understood. But if you're not at that place yet, for me, it's God. It's my faith. It's going to church or listening to the right Negro spiritual when it comes up. And usually when I need one, it will come up in the right way, even though not all Negro spirituals are actually spiritual. So there's this song right now that is food for me. To your question, sir, it's called Little Runaway by Celeste. I don't think anyone would describe it. I don't think on its surface it looks like it's a song about God necessarily, but for me that's exactly what it is, and reconnects me to my faith and sustains me through the hard parts of this journey.
I really want you all to go out and be able to talk to each other now. That was we can't go anywhere after this. Like, this was where we needed to end. So thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. I want to thank these beautiful panelists, these incredible artists, these remarkable human beings. I want to thank Sav for all the incredible work he put in to make this happen. I want to thank the Plaza Theater staff, the Atlanta Film Festival, Chris Escobar, and all that he is doing to like really fortify us and make sure that we have more and more places to show our work and to collaborate. And I really, really want to thank all of you for being here. I was in a pretty dark place in the earlier part of this year. To your point, it's sort of amazing that you asked that question. And over the last several years, because like this is like the fifth, once in a lifetime crisis I've had to lead the organization through. And I'll be honest, I got to a point at the beginning of this year where I was like, I don't have another one of these in me. And then we did an event, and I connected to some people, and I was like, we need to come back to the Creative Sustainability Summits. So like, real talk, I did this for me. And I can honestly say, like, the energy in this room, gathering these people, that these folks said yes on a Monday, this has given me at least the next year's worth of energy in terms of, this has been the fuel for me as well. So I really want to thank you all for everything that you bring to us and to this community. And now I want you to go enjoy some drinks and each other. A thank you to our sponsors, without whom this is not possible, and to our community partners, who actually helped us find all of you. Thank you so much.